You've probably heard the legends, the famous Texas miracle stories. That fairy tale we've been told for years. Zero state taxes, huge oil fields, and quiet, peaceful towns. The tech migration the country watched with envy. Remember, in 2020, in 2021, what was everyone talking about? California's over, New York is dead, everyone is moving to Texas, this is the safe haven. For years, buying a house here really did feel like buying a guaranteed lottery ticket. Those fleeing Silicon Valley, those tired of Wall Street, those wanting to save their retirement, they all packed their bags and flocked to these promised lands. Developers answered this call in one way: construction. They built luxury complexes on every vacant lot, every cornfield, every highway shoulder. Cranes rose everywhere. But would that miracle last forever? You are now witnessing it firsthand. Like weeds sprouting after rain, for sale signs are now popping up everywhere. Normally, those signs would be taken down on weekends. Now they linger for weeks, even months, and the price reductions that realtors tried to hide, they're no longer hidden. They are plastered on the ads in bold letters and red labels for everyone to see. Let's be clear, this is not the market correcting itself or a slowdown. What we're going to see today is nothing short of a thread unraveling. Today, we're going on a journey to 10 suburbs where the Texas homeownership dream has turned into a disturbing financial nightmare. If you own property in Texas or are even considering entering this market, consider this video a briefing prepared specifically for you. Before we get started, I'm Nolan from State of Reality. If you like this kind of content, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Please share your thoughts in the comments so others can learn from them. Ready? Grab your keys. Our journey into the concrete deserts of Texas begins. Number 10, Frisco. We start our list at number 10, a place squeezed into the vast, ever-expanding core of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, Frisco. For years, this place was the dictionary definition of explosive growth. Not long ago, Frisco was the shining star of the Dallas boom. Families flocked here. Major sporting events were held here. Quality schools, spacious and beautiful shopping centers, and countless new corporate headquarters were built. But today, Frisco has transformed into something very different. It's now a cautionary tale of what happens when development continues at full speed without hitting the brakes. The volume of construction here is incredible. Whichever direction you drive, you encounter neighborhoods where many homes are completed, but silence reigns. No one has moved in. These new subdivisions feel almost surreal. It's like you're inside a perfect movie set, but the actors never show up. Looking at real estate data, MLS, makes the picture even clearer. The inventory of newly built homes has increased by more than 40% in just 6 months. And these aren't custom-built architectural marvels. These are mass-produced, record-speed assembled homes that now sit empty. Builders are aware of what's happening, but panic is starting to seep into those construction sites. According to Redfin's market analysis, roughly 1/3 of all active listings in Frisco have already gone on price reduction. And these aren't timid, symbolic numbers. We're not talking about shaving a few $1,000s off the list price. Sellers are slashing $50,000, $70,000, and in some cases even six-figure amounts, $100,000 in one go. But here's the kicker. Despite these eye-watering drops, the numbers still don't make sense for the average household. Median prices, especially in an environment where today's mortgage rates are dragging everything down, remain well above what typical local incomes can afford. National Association of Realtors, NAR data shows the region's affordability index has hit its lowest point in 20 years. Those who bought homes during the frenzy of 2021 and early 2022 are now facing a punishing reality. As they try to sell their existing homes, they must compete head-to-head with brand new construction backed by aggressive incentive packages. Developers are playing every card they have: rate buy-down agreements that bring interest rates down to the 4% range, plus tens of thousands of dollars in upgrade and design credits. It's impossible for a traditional second-hand seller, an individual homeowner, to compete with this. The result? Listings that once sold in a single weekend are now lingering. The average days on market in Frisco has skyrocketed to 75 days. Just a year ago, that number would have sounded absurd. This is what a housing market looks like when it's drowning in its own inventory. If you're a Frisco homeowner, that equity cushion you thought was safe may be eroding much faster than you expected. If your neighborhood is starting to fill up with for sale signs, we want to hear about it. Comment below. What are you seeing on your street? Number 9. McKinney, right next to Frisco, is our second stop, McKinney. And while Frisco's problem stems from the suffocating flood of new construction, McKinney is struggling for an entirely different reason. The name of the crisis here: interest rates. The golden handcuff effect is at play here. There's a palpable tension in the air and the pressure is mounting. McKinney is, in many ways, a large-scale buyer's remorse story. Zillow's current data shows that a significant portion of homeowners here locked in mortgage rates hovering around 3%, the rock-bottom levels seen during the market's peak when they purchased. On the surface, these people own beautiful homes, but beneath that glossy image, many have fallen into what we call the house-rich, cash-poor situation. Their monthly payments are eating up a much larger portion of their income than they anticipated. Moving is not a simple option. If they try to sell and buy a new home nearby, they will have to borrow at today's much higher interest rates. This trap is what has kept the market where it is. Unlike Frisco, McKinney isn't flooded with new construction, but the existing homes coming onto the market are stuck in limbo. The Texas Real Estate Research Center reports that the average time on the market has increased by over 110% in just 1 year. Homes now take twice as long to sell. Many sellers are clinging to the dream of the prices their neighbors achieved 2 years ago during those heady days, but that world isn't coming back anytime soon. Realtor.com recently flagged McKinney as one of the places in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs with the widest gap between list price and actual sale price. This gap, exceeding 8%, highlights the painful reality check experienced at every negotiation table. Buyers are insisting on steep discounts to offset punishing mortgage rates. Sellers are slowly and painfully realizing that yesterday's prices were a historical moment, not a standard. Sales activity has also dropped sharply, nearly 30% below its peak. Only homes in emergency situations are selling quickly right now. Families relocating for work, homeowners under financial pressure, or sellers exhausted by the situation. These properties can only close after the price is slashed by 10 to 15%. Everyone else, they are stuck in a holding pattern, and waiting does not make the mortgage cheaper. McKinney has become a place where many homeowners feel trapped. They are barely managing a very high loan payment, but they can't escape without making their situation worse. If you are experiencing this reality, you are not alone. Number 8. Prosper. For the next stop on our list, we head further north to a suburb whose name sounds like a guarantee: Prosper. Pretty bold, right? During the last housing boom, this place was like the showroom of the high-end suburban dream. Prosper was the place to be for luxury homes built on spacious lots worth millions of dollars. But that's precisely why it's the first place to crack. What's happening in Prosper is actually a quiet contraction of wealth. These aren't starter homes. Most of the properties here are second or third homes, the move-up category, purchased when buyers' incomes or lifestyles expanded. And right now, that segment of the market is buckling under its own weight. These move-up buyers generally rely on 3 things: solid stock portfolios, hefty annual bonuses, and tech industry salaries that once felt like a guarantee. Over the past 2 years, all 3 of these income streams have become much less predictable. When you look closely at luxury sales figures, the pattern emerges flawlessly. The inventory of homes priced above $1.5 million has increased by more than 50%. Currently, large new constructions and spec homes are lined up, waiting for buyers who have no urgency to pull the trigger. And the price reductions at this level are anything but subtle. They are dramatic. Local realtors say it has become normal to see discounts of $200,000, $300,000, or even $500,000 on a single property. This is not a mild market correction. It is a liquidation. Contractors who took on serious debt to finance these luxury projects are now being squeezed from both sides. Material costs may have stabilized, but the interest costs on their loans have skyrocketed. They don't have the luxury of holding on to finished homes indefinitely, so they are slashing prices and piling on massive incentives to clear inventory. But these discounts create a ripple effect. The moment a discounted sale closes, it drags down the comparable value of every other home in that neighborhood. Consider this. Just a few years ago, you bought a house in Prosper for $1 million. Now, you see an almost identical house down the street selling for $750,000. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of dollars of your equity on paper vanish into thin air. Luxury homes in Prosper now sit on the market for over 100 days on average. And every month an empty home sits unsold means another round of mortgage payments, rising property taxes, and hefty insurance bills for a home no one lives in. This is the top of the market collapsing under its own weight. Many people assumed that having deep pockets would protect them from risk. Prosper serves as a harsh reminder. The higher the price, the harder the fall when the market turns. Number 7, Anna. Our final stop in the Dallas-Fort Worth area takes us to Anna. It was one of North Texas's fastest-growing outer suburbs, and an example of what happens when development outpaces infrastructure. For years, the sales pitch to home buyers was simple. When prices in McKinney, Frisco, and Prosper skyrocketed to unaffordable levels, people kept driving north until a builder said, "Yes, your loan is approved." And more often than not, that answer came in Anna. But the reality of living there hit much later. A large portion of the community relies on narrow, aging, two-lane country roads that were never designed to handle the traffic generated by thousands of new homes. Local schools scramble to keep up with capacity by hastily adding portable classrooms. Even a simple grocery run often requires a trip to neighboring cities. And that reasonable commute to Plano or Dallas, for many residents, it has become a grueling ordeal lasting over an hour each way. What initially seemed like a smart financial trade-off is now proving much more costly in terms of both time and daily expenses. Then, the market turned. According to Adam Data's foreclosure tracking, Anna and its surrounding zip codes currently rank among the highest rates of new foreclosure filings in Texas. Most are early-stage warnings, but they signal very real financial stress across the community. Another piece of the puzzle is how homogeneous the housing stock is. Most homes in Anna were built between 2019 and 2023, meaning buyers face an endless array of nearly identical options. When demand softens, this similarity creates brutal price competition. Inventory has increased by over 60%, and price reductions have become routine. Homes that initially hit the market around $400,000 are now being discounted by $30,000 to $40,000. Builders are effectively driving down the entire price structure by offering even deeper discounts and hefty incentives. Families who bought homes with low down payments at the peak of the market are now staring directly into the face of negative equity. Another factor is remote work. Many buyers assumed they would work from home most days. However, as more Dallas-Fort Worth employers call their employees back to the office, reality is rapidly changing. The added cost of gas, tolls, and hours lost in traffic are pushing monthly budgets to breaking point. And now, homeowners face another uphill battle, competing with contractors offering aggressive discounts and attractive upgrade packages that the average seller can't match. For many families in Anna, the dream they thought they were buying has taken a sharp turn. Instead of building equity, they're fighting for a home whose value diminishes a little more each month. Number 6, Leander. Now we're moving to the Austin metro area, and our first stop on the list, Leander. For years, when prices in downtown Austin went crazy, this was the default escape destination for everyone left out. Leander didn't just grow, it exploded. For many years in a row, it topped lists as one of the fastest growing cities in the entire country. But this rise didn't last long because the first reason was the pandemic bringing out those free loans that were so cheap. The second reason is one of Texas's most misunderstood and brutal financial realities: property taxes. What we are seeing in Leander right now is a live broadcast of what happens when a community accidentally steps on a tax minefield. When people first moved here, they looked at the sticker price of the house and thought, okay, it's stretching the budget, but we'll manage. The real shock came when the first full property tax bills landed in their mailboxes. Advertising that Texas has no state income tax was a great marketing slogan. However, the state more than makes up for this gap with some of the highest property taxes in America. And Williamson County, where most of Leander is located, sits at the very top of that spectrum, the most expensive end. Families who bought homes at the peak of the market for $600,000 are now opening tax bills for $15,000, $18,000, or even $20,000 in annual tax bills. Let's do the math. That means adding an extra $1,500 per month on top of your already painfully high mortgage payment. Reports from the Texas Taxpayers and Research Association confirm that effective tax rates in this region are around 3%. Most buyers didn't factor in this cost. Now this situation is pushing them into a major bind. They can't stay because the cost of ownership keeps climbing. They can't sell because the market has slipped away from under their feet. Redfin data reveals a grim reality. Nearly 1 in 4 people, 1/4, who bought a home in Leander in the last 2 years are now underwater. That is, their debt to the bank exceeds the home's current market value. Inventories are swelling rapidly. The overall listing count has increased by over 55%. And it's not just homeowners bleeding. Investors are too. Remote investors, who played a major role in Leander's rise, plan to buy and rent out homes without ever seeing them, relying on video tours. But now those rentals are either sitting empty or renting for far less than expected. High taxes are eating every penny of the rental income. In some streets, you can see multiple rental properties hitting the market at the same time. These mass sell-offs are crushing property values for ordinary homeowners who have nothing to do with speculation. Leander served as a harsh reminder that the true cost of a home is not just the mortgage loan. The real financial pressure usually comes at tax time. And too many residents only learn this lesson after their savings hit rock bottom. Number 5, Georgetown. Just up the highway from Leander, our next stop is Georgetown. For a long time, this place was marketed as the peaceful final scene of the Texas dream. With its massive Sun City development, Georgetown was a magnet for those fleeing states like California and Illinois, wanting to sell their homes and enjoy a quiet, inexpensive retirement in the hill country. However, today, many of those people face a very different reality, one resembling a financial crisis rather than a comforting final chapter. The breakdown here stems from a simple yet devastating clash: fixed incomes versus rapidly rising living costs. Retirees moved to Georgetown because they believed they could afford it. What they didn't account for was the simultaneous rise in the price of nearly everything. Electricity, water, food, healthcare expenses are eating up larger chunks of the budget, and property taxes have added to these costs. During the boom years, county assessors pushed home values higher each year. On paper, these increases may look good, but for retirees, they just mean a bigger tax bill. Social Security checks don't double just because a county official says your home is worth more. Retirement pensions don't increase because home prices have gone up. Local officials report that senior homeowners who have lived in their homes for 10 years or more are now struggling to meet their tax obligations. It's not because these people are squandering their money, it's because they are being slowly pushed out of their own neighborhoods in a system where their incomes remain fixed, but the system operates on the constant assumption that you can afford to pay more. This financial squeeze has effectively slowed the market. Seniors who want to downsize, move closer to family, or transition to a nursing home can't find buyers at their asking price. Listings in Georgetown's 55-plus and active adult communities now sit on the market for an average of 95 days. That's well above what was once considered normal. On the demand side, new retirees who once fueled this market are reconsidering their move. The era of selling their California homes for $1 million and moving to Texas to live like royalty is over. The value of the homes they sold has declined, and the cost of living in Georgetown has wiped out the financial advantage they expected. The inventory in senior-focused neighborhoods has risen to 40% above typical levels. And remember, these homes do not appeal to young families. This excludes a large portion of the buyer pool and makes the system more vulnerable. Even AARP's Public Policy Division has warned when economic conditions change, cities that are heavily dependent on a retired population are at the greatest risk. Georgetown is currently a living example of this warning. For many residents, this isn't just a drop in home values. It's the collapse of a retirement plan they spent decades preparing for, and they have neither the time nor the options to make up the difference. Number 4, Kyle. We head just south of Austin to Kyle, our 4th stop. Along with its neighbor Buda, this town became the ground zero of one of recent history's largest and most reckless housing experiments, the iBuyer model. During the pandemic frenzy, tech giants like Zillow, Opendoor, and OfferPad descended on these streets like a swarm of locusts. They didn't just enter the market, they dominated it. They snapped up thousands of homes without ever seeing them, relying solely on algorithms and often outbidding real families by tens of thousands of dollars. But this wasn't simple math, and these valuations left Kyle buried under the rubble. Between 2020 and 2022, these companies weren't walking neighborhoods picking homes. They were running automated systems that viewed homes not as the nests where people built their lives, but merely as data points. Then the market turned. Interest rates rose, buyers retreated, and those finely tuned models collapsed overnight. Suddenly, these companies were left with a massive inventory of identical homes purchased at prices that no longer made sense. An independent review of the local market revealed that at one point over 15% of all active listings in Kyle belonged to these iBuyer companies. They weren't influencing the market, they had become the market. And when things got bad, what did they do? They panicked. They began offloading their inventory as quickly as possible, often at horrific losses. There are documented examples of homes purchased at around $450,000 at the peak now being sold for $320,000. That's a $130,000 loss on a single property. These companies are deliberately sacrificing their profits just to clean up their books and exit. But what about the average homeowner living next door? They don't have that luxury. How can you compete when a giant tech company is selling a home nearly identical to yours for 25% less than what you paid? The answer is simple. You can't. The moment that discounted listing hits the market, your equity evaporates. Kyle currently has one of the highest concentrations of zombie listings in Texas. These are empty houses, usually owned by out-of-state limited liability companies, LLCs, where no one lives. These vacant properties drag down the value and appeal of the entire neighborhood. What's happening in Kyle isn't a normal supply and demand correction. It's the radioactive fallout of a tech-driven business experiment treating an entire town as a trade strategy. Number 3, Pearland. At the southern edge of the Houston metro area, our third stop is Pearland. For years, this suburb was known as a safe haven. Its strong schools, proximity to the Texas Medical Center, and reasonable prices compared to the city center made it a favorite among families. But this sense of security blinded people to a major risk: climate risk and the collapsing insurance market. What happened in Pearland is a picture of how the entire affordability foundation crumbled when the cost of insuring a home became so high. You don't have to live directly on the coast to feel the power of Gulf storms. Pearland has had its share of severe rain events and recurring floods, including Hurricane Harvey. Insurance companies noticed these patterns and responded. Major carriers like Farmers and Allstate restricted or completely stopped new policies in the area. The companies that still write policies here have raised premiums to levels many residents could never have imagined. Homeowners and Texas Insurance Department data report that annual premiums have doubled or even tripled in just a few years. We're not talking about luxury mansions. Insuring ordinary standard family homes now costs $6,000, $8,000, or even $10,000 a year. When you break that down to a monthly cost, it means adding an extra $500 or more to your mortgage payment. In terms of long-term costs, this is equivalent to adding $100,000 to the price of the home, and the burden doesn't stop there. Updated FEMA flood maps and local drainage projects have pushed more homes into the floodplain. The moment a property enters a flood zone, flood insurance becomes mandatory, which means several $1,000s more each year. Investors and buyers are seeing this. Many now request an insurance quote before making an offer, and when they see the numbers, they walk away from the table in shock. The result was swift. As the pool of interested buyers formed, inventory increased by roughly 35%. People are rightly hesitant to purchase a property when they don't know if they'll be able to insure it at a reasonable rate in the near future. Sellers, meanwhile, are caught between forces beyond their control. They can't lower insurance rates. They can't change the flood maps. They certainly can't control the weather. Yet, to attract serious buyer interest, they are forced to slash their prices. Without stable and affordable insurance, you cannot have a stable housing market. Pearland is a clear example of what happens when that critical support beam collapses. Number 2, Katy. We're staying in the Houston area and turning west toward Katy. This is a vast suburban empire made up of massive planned communities like Cinco Ranch, Grand Lakes, and Cane Island. Katy has become a suburban powerhouse by tying its reputation to a single central pillar, the energy industry. The formula was always simple. When oil and gas boomed, Katy boomed. When the energy sector faltered, the effects were felt here almost immediately. But what's happening in Katy now isn't a repeat of the dramatic oil crash of the 1980s. This time, it's a much more insidious, much more gradual, and potentially just as damaging process. Today's energy industry is undergoing a transformation. Companies may still be profitable, but hiring is not at the same level. Automation, new drilling technologies, and shareholder pressure to do more with less are forcing companies to downsize. The seemingly innocent term capital discipline, often heard in the industry, translates in practice to fewer new hires and periodic layoffs. This uncertainty is directly seeping into the housing market. According to data from the Houston Association of Realtors, HAR, sales of high-end homes in Katy, especially properties above $500,000, have fallen by about 30%. Inventory in the same price range has ballooned by about 45%. This is a textbook sign of a market that has lost its balance. More expensive homes are piling up, but the number of qualified buyers to purchase them is decreasing. And this change isn't just hitting homeowners. Renters are also caught in the middle of this storm. Many households that could have easily purchased one of these large suburban homes a few years ago are now opting to rent. Why? Because they are uncertain about long-term job security. This behavioral shift has pushed down luxury rental rates. This, in turn, has started to squeeze investors who bought these homes expecting strong rental income. Katy's entire identity was built on the belief that energy sector jobs would always be plentiful and well-paying, but that assumption no longer feels as secure. In practical terms, this situation is causing the market to become flooded with large, expensive homes whose fate is tightly tied to a single volatile industry. When oil and gas executives are worried about the next 12 months, they don't go out and sign $600,000 new home contracts. Number 1, Round Rock and the Peak. End of list. Number 1. This is where the Texas miracle story turns into a brutal financial horror movie. Round Rock. This collapse hurts because the script wasn't written this way. Round Rock is home to giant employers like Dell and is one of the main characters in the Austin tech story. For years, it was marketed as a safe, stable tech haven against the craziness downtown. People thought it was bulletproof. They were wrong. Right now, Round Rock's housing market is experiencing the most severe, full-scale meltdown in the state. The decline here mirrors what's happening in the tech sector. For 3 years, giants like Dell, Apple, and Tesla hired like crazy. Bidding wars broke out even for modest homes. People were paying $1 million in cash for ordinary 2,000 square foot homes. Then the tide turned. Starting in 2023, tech companies began laying off employees. The layoffs continued steadily. Each new wave of layoffs added more homeowners to the pool of potential sellers. Figures from the Austin Association of Realtors read like a warning siren. The median home price in Round Rock has fallen more than 20% from its peak. This is the sharpest and fastest decline seen in any major suburb in the state. For many homeowners, this means the evaporation of hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. Zillow data estimates that over 30% of buyers who purchased homes here in the last 2 years are currently underwater. That means if they sold their homes today, they wouldn't be able to pay off their mortgage debt. Meanwhile, inventory has surged over 150% from its last low point. If you want to see the desperation in the market, look at the offers from builders. In some new housing communities, the incentives are so extreme they sound like marketing gimmicks: free cars, 2 years of prepaid HOA fees, and ultra-promotional financing packages that appear to offer interest-free periods. Such offers emerge not because a developer is worried about losing profit margins, but because they fear holding on to unsold homes. Round Rock has become a textbook example of a suburb priced on hype and belief rather than fundamentals. It was inflated by cheap money and the belief that technological growth would last forever. That fantasy has now been definitively debunked. The Texas miracle narrative hit its ceiling right here. Here's the picture from the new developments turning into ghost towns outside Dallas, Frisco, to the tax burden crushing Austin suburbs, Leander, Georgetown, to the insurance crisis on the Gulf Coast, Pearland. What we've seen on this journey is the breaking of major fault lines. There's a simple truth connecting most of these housing markets. They were fueled by hype rather than sustainable long-term trends. This doesn't mean every corner of Texas is collapsing. Many communities remain relatively stable. But if you own property in one of these suburbs we're discussing or are considering buying, you need to approach the situation realistically. You're no longer in a world where sellers set all the rules. You're in a fragile market where conditions can change much faster than most people expect. If this in-depth analysis helped you understand what's really going on out there, hit the like button. Share this video with everyone you know in Texas and subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. Your support keeps us digging into the real stories behind the headlines. Thanks for watching and stay safe with your money.